Good morning, guys. I hope you guys are doing well. I get a really cool opportunity today to talk to all of the AP Seminar students, not only my students, but Mrs. Murray students. Hi, Mrs. Murray students. Hope you're having a great day. Um, I know that it can be really nerve-wracking when you don't like you're used to having Miss Murray, but then you have Mrs. Brubaker, but it's going to be great, I promise. So all of you guys today are going to be doing something called a vetting handout for our research questions. Over the weekend, what you guys did is you guys looked at three distinct topics and you went through this critical prompt kind of like I call it sandboxing, is kind of going through and looking at all these different ways to look at a possible topic or possible three topics for your upcoming research question, which was super, super exciting. Um, and so, what we're going to talk about today is kind of going from the idea of a sandboxing topic to now looking at a possible way to take this topic and then go ahead and talk about creating this research question and going through and starting to kind of make sure that if it is too broad, we can narrow it down to make sure that we are in really good shapes kind of moving forward. So what I want you guys to do is you guys are going to have this handout from either myself or Mrs. Murray. And then what you are going to do is you are going to go ahead and first write the topic that you're looking at. So one of the topics that I saw that was very, very popular was virtual reality. So I'm going to go ahead and write virtual reality. And that made sense just coming from source B and looking at the Joe Hill art. I'm not super surprised that students are pursuing that. But as Mrs. Murray and I have both told you, we have to be really careful because if you have thought about virtual reality, that means somebody somewhere also has thought about virtual reality. So we want to make sure that it's narrow enough that it's, first of all, researchable in a really good amount of time. But then also, I want to make sure that you guys are in good shape moving forward, that it's a topic that you're passionate about, you feel like you can handle given the 30 days that you've been provided. So what I did in this space is I have virtual reality, and I'm going to kind of pop into maybe from my initial research a topic that might be interesting to me, and I'm going to say, how does virtual reality impact the environment? Very broad question. I know it's broad, but at least kind of gives us a place to go to start narrowing that process down. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to figure out, are there two distinct sides? Yes. And this question, because it is so broad and open-ended, it kind of brings you to a couple different sides you could do. You could do virtual reality does not impact the environment. Be great if I could spell. Virtual reality does impact the environment. Then you could do virtual reality only impacts the environment this way. And that could be lenses, etc. So yes, if we're checking this, this is possible. Is the question open-ended? Absolutely. It is a how question. So it allows the reader, or the writer, excuse me, to look at multiple lenses and perspectives. Now, I'm not saying this is a great question by any means. I think it has a lot of work, but it is open-ended right now. Does the question allow for a researchable judgment? Well, let's hightail it to the internet. All right, so I'm going to put in virtual reality on the environment. You guys can see I already have kind of Googled it for you guys. So, okay, so Yale, which is a pretty credible source, is saying that virtual reality could be used for conservation. So that seems interesting. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this into my document. Super excited about that. And I would suggest, I'm going to do one, I would suggest doing probably 3 to 4 sources, because this could help with the narrow down process. Not a question. It actually could. All right. So, is it broad enough to research or narrow enough not to be overwhelmed? In its current form, I would be very overwhelmed, because I could look, how do you define environment? Could that be endangered species? Could that be could it be the dump? I saw a couple sources about how virtual reality could really impact how we recycle and how we throw garbage away. So that, I would say, it's definitely very, very overwhelming right now, and that's totally okay. You may be in a better spot than I am, but I want you to be detailed here. The more you do, the easier it will be to narrow it down. Is it researchable given the time and location provided? Okay, so location is kind of relative, because we could use Google. However, time-wise, remember, your outlines are due before spring break. So that's like a week, coming on about 2 weeks from, actually it's about, let's talk school days, about 10 school days. And so, not right now. Too big. And I would also say here, kind of going back to like type of virtual reality, almost like the sensors in Source B, because right now this looks super similar to Source B. You might want to think about narrowing that down. It could be type of environment, and so on. So we really, really need to be thinking about that as we are researching. Right now, does it place is it a spin on an existing idea? Not really. Virtual reality is relatively new. However, it could be viewed as too broad and overdone, just given the fact that everyone is looking at this right now, which is why the narrow down process for you guys is going to be really important. And can the question be viewed from multiple lenses and perspectives? So, yes, but overwhelming. I would say here you could do economic, you could do environmental, would be the obvious one. Political. You guys don't, like, this idea of using virtual reality could be do something for national parks, and that could be a very political thing. It could, when we talk about any kind of technology, we kind of get a little bit nervous about that. So those are one of those things as well. You guys will really want to research and do some thinking about that. So right now, my question is quite big. So I may decide, I'm looking up and this idea of conservation for me with endangered species is really, really interesting. So my question may turn into, how could virtual reality, and maybe I don't have enough research yet to decide on a type, impact conservation for endangered species? For those who don't know, I have an obsession with Fiona. So the Nile hippo. And I may start there. Again, that's still maybe a little bit of a big question, but at least gives me a place to go when we start on Wednesday peer reviewing and start thinking about initial research. and kind of moving forward. But that is what you guys are responsible for, and you'll do that for each of the three topics you guys focused on over the weekend. If you guys have any questions, that's Murray or Brubaker's kids, please ask. Please come to me. Please do not feel like you're bothering me. You can send a Schoology message to Mrs. Murray. If you're worried, like if you need something more immediate, please email or Schoology message or come see me. And I'm happy to help you kind of moving forward. But this is your assignment for Monday into Tuesday.